This will be short. I think my battery's close to being dead, but it'll be about. I just heard the millennials and generations X, Y, Z, and whatever are blaming the woes of the world on the baby boomer generation. And this is scapegoating. This is not true. We are all raised to be bozos. And it's the large corporations and corrupt governments who have squeezed you to the max. After the war, 1945 ended, where the whole world got together to stop the Nazi totalitarianism, which is back now. Same people, same thing. Socialism, totalitarian socialism. This is inspired by the planets, by the astrology. It's called astrotheology. Look it up and learn about it. The baby boomers were born 46, 47-ish. And when they were 20, which was 1965-ish, this was the pinnacle of Western economic supremacy. The United States had 2.5% of the population and 50% of the wealth of the world because they were exporting technology and information to the whole world, and that went on for a long time. So also they dumped drugs on us. I went to Europe and came back a year later, and all my friends were on drugs. I never seen drugs before. They were occasionally seen downtown. There was heroin addicts. So the proliferation of drugs was allowed because before that, the police were all over it. Also, the music, a lot of the rock and roll heroes were the sons of politicians and higher-up military men who were sacrificed, as those people do, the cultists program their children to be part of. So I'm not going to name any names, but we had these people and their music shoved in our faces. Examples of freedom and peace and stick it to the man. We used to call them the man, and the man turned out to be the Illuminati and the Council on Foreign Relations and the World Economic Forum and huge things like that, who were already at that time setting the world in the direction they wanted. This was done to keep these children out of the military as well. They were never drafted. Vietnam War was going on at that time. So after that, when and the 60s settled down, we had the 70s and disco, which was horrible, and got stumbled on in the darkness. We had dinks, which is double income, no kids, because we were sold overpopulation. So we bought into that, and I personally do have 2.7 kids. We had to cut some pieces off my daughter so she would fit in with the profile. Then in the 90s, AIDS was introduced, and Dr. Fauci was there trying to find a cure for it. and that killed Party City, and it was the beginning of people becoming afraid of others. And on and on. We were not told that the government was lying to us. We were not told anything. And people in those times used to write books, and I'm in Canada, and we have these intellectual guys writing books, and I knew their names, but I never read one of their books. And now I am one of those people. So I can confirm that when you grow up, hair starts growing in your ears and you start listening to talk radio. So I have the information about the sons of higher up militaries being the rock stars of the 60s and 70s to avoid the draft. It was one of the videos I had on my channel. I had 480 videos. They were taken down. So much information. Blank spot. Anyway, that's where that came from. That's what I researched. And I started a newsletter, and what happened with the newsletter was I was with a service, so I wouldn't leave them unnamed, and they hosted my site. Very nice. Then I started putting out the newsletter, and it was going out to my mailing list from my company, and I think it was about 1,300 people. And a lot of the people had changed their email address, so it was bouncing back. And first of all, my hosting company complained and said, you can't do this, it's too much traffic. And I said, well, what do you mean? You have a newsletter provision on my service. And they said, yeah, but we didn't think you'd actually use it. It turns out they had a little box with several people in it. This is how they make money. But there isn't, if you put it on a newsletter, it cuts into everybody else's ability to do traffic. So I said, okay. They said, you're sending out spam. And I said, this is my newsletter. They just turned my site off until I cleared it up. And then they did it again. And I said, okay, that's it. You've cost me thousands in business already. So I moved over to another place. My IT guy had a huge presence on the net. I sent out my newsletter, and it was blocked by a company called Spam House, H-A-U-S-E, which is German. So, okay, same thing. You're sending out spam. No, it's my newsletter. So on the way to Spam House, I ran into this internet behemoth. Their web page is so big you have to scroll down 5 times to see it all. And they control the world of the internet. They're probably not the only company that does this, but they're bigger than Google. Okay, there's this huge controller sitting on the internet. And then we got to Spam House, and Spam House is German, and they protect people from spammers. So my IT guy had a long communication with them saying, this is what's going on, that we're using a mailing list that's 14 years in length, and some of the people have moved on, but it's not spam, so they allowed it. So behind the apparency of worldwide internet is a huge titanic group of companies that already control it and have all of your information, and it's international and one world-ish. And I surmise this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's already too late. George Bush Sr. said in one of his speeches that we have created a new world order, not trying to or about to, but we have done it. And they didn't tell the baby boomers. So let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Right now, all we can do is try to vote out the corrupt politicians. And I'm in Canada, and we do not use the voting machines which are manufactured in Canada. We use paper ballots, which are hand counted by people with someone watching them. It's not necessary to use the voting machines because it's not necessary that we know who the new electees are by 11 p.m. Film at 11. It's too bad. You can wait till tomorrow or the next day while we count 350 million votes. Years ago, I say 7 years ago, California made those voting machines illegal because even California said these things can be manipulated. And a lot of countries have a dictator who is hated and is killing people, and the elections come along and he gets reelected. Argentina, Russia. I met a woman once who works for the Canadian government. Her job was to go when there are elections to other countries and try to see if they're legitimate or not. And I said, and what's the result? She said, they're all crooked. That's the report we make back. I always vote for the independent guy or the new guy. They get about 800 votes. They get a choice between crooked A or crooked B. Lesser of two evils is not the way to go. I'm just watching two tugboats go by. It's 5:45 in the morning. It's Sunday. They're out there doing stuff with the log booms. These people are making it happen, and the log booms are cut up and turned into housing materials and furniture, and the bark is used for gardens, and the smaller slices are used to make hardboard. And then the dust from that, I forget what they do with that, but they even use the last of the, furnaces. Goes for furnace. So these guys are very green already. And they're doing a much better job of being green than politicians. I think that's all for my rant today. Don't mind the low lighting. I'm not pretty, not blonde.